Hello and welcome to Business World. I'm your host Siddharth, and today we are sitting with Mr. Rahil Ansari, Audi India head and the youngest Audi CEO globally. We'll be talking about the new electric vehicle from Audi, the E-Tron. So tell us a little about E-Tron.
I think the E-Tron is a fascinating car. It has been presented now on the 17th of September in San Francisco, a big global launch. It will definitely revolutionize the electric vehicle world because that's a car with a complete battery electric vehicle. So it's something which is pretty exciting. We're excited about it not only from a global perspective but also from a local perspective here in India.
Do you think E-Tron will be the halo car that Indian electric vehicle revolution needs?
I think it will definitely lead the way. One reason for it is if you look at the range of the local electric vehicles, you typically have a range of 90 to 120 kilometers. Possibly in the future it's about 150 kilometers. With the E-Tron you're looking at 400 kilometers plus, which is of course a big advantage and will definitely also change the game for us.
Sir, what do you think about the infrastructure currently there in India, and what work needs to be done in the infrastructure?
So of course there's a lot of work that still has to happen. I think the government has taken some good steps in terms of projects, pilots that are running. You see a couple of pilots running in Nagpur. Of course the metros are now also part of the infrastructural revamp. That still has to be accelerated, I agree. What we are doing from our perspective, I can say, is that we are of course getting the infrastructure, the electric charging stations installed at home. So we will also work with someone locally to get that installed, and of course in the dealerships. So the dealerships will have the electric charging facilities, which means that basically if you are going out station, that you will also have access to it. Just a quick example, if you go for example from Delhi to Chandigarh, you will have an Audi dealer in Karnal, and you will also have a charging station over there to get basically, you can recharge your car on the way and then also reach Chandigarh.
E-Tron has a 92 kilowatt hour battery. That is the highest after Tesla maybe. So I've heard that the battery takes only half an hour to charge to 80%.
As I said, it's like really something that will revolutionize the electric vehicle space. Not only the fast charging is one of the topics that is of course changing it, and then of course the range of the car, but at the same time also the technology. It's like a highly complex battery. It's a high voltage battery of a few hundred kgs. So basically that shows also the complexity of the entire system. To take care of that, our engineers have done really fantastic work. So that will definitely also be very interesting and exciting for the customer. At the same time, it also means complexity for us because we also have to train our manpower locally to get a battery like this repaired, which we are doing, or which is in the phase of being done. People at Audi India, they have already been trained on electric vehicles, so which means that we are ready from our perspective, and as a next step we're also preparing the network on this, which is basically good and in line with our timeline planned.
Okay, sir, so at the end of this whole thing, when do we expect E-Tron to come to India?
So initially we're looking at 2020, to be honest. Now, given the hype of the car, given the positive reaction of media, journalists, of potential customers, and of course also the development in terms of the Indian infrastructure, we are looking at rather preponing it to 2019.
Okay, sir, now we are going to talk about the 2019 launches. So I believe the launches of the new cars are starting with the A8. So could you talk about the A8 a bit?
So A8 is for me the ultimate luxury car in that segment. It's a beautifully designed car, probably with the best of the technologies that you have over there. Especially the lighting technology is pretty interesting and exciting, but of course you also have other additional features in the A8 for massage function. You of course have a highly digitalized inlay with rear seat entertainment, or of course with the new MMI system. So it's pretty exciting. I think customers have been waiting for it for too long. So we have to catch up with this. The initial plan was to launch it this year. I don't think that we will be in a position to launch it this year, also because of global demand. but definitely for next year it's planned, and we are definitely counting on a couple of bookings. I think that will also give us a little bit of a boost in terms of brand image, because as I said, that's like the ultimate luxury car. So that will also bring back the halo effect of Audi again.
Okay, now you spoke about the amazing lighting that the A8 has. So Audi has always been the fire starter with new technologies, right? The matrix LEDs, the digital cockpit system, and everybody else follows Audi in those technologies. So are we going to look at some new technologies coming from Audi in the future?
So in the future, OLED technology is like the one that is coming up. I think that's something which is not only from a technology perspective interesting, but especially also like from a design perspective, it looks pretty exciting, and it's pretty fascinating if you see the development of lights, that how it has developed overall for cars. If I look back 10, 15 years, like even halogen, if you look at those lightings, then xenon lighting was like a big highlight at that point in time. Now xenon is basically standard. You're not looking at it from at something which is like really outperforming something. From that perspective, lighting plays a crucial role for Audi, not only to show the technological advancement, but especially also the design perspective. That's something which is very interesting and important for the brand Audi, to outperform in terms of design, and not only from a shape of the car, the shapes of the car, of course, the new design line that you see with the A8, for example, and with the new cars that are coming up, also with the E-Tron, but also with the technologies that are part of the car.
What do you think about autonomous driving and driverless cars with India in mind? This is happening abroad.
Yeah.
This is successful abroad. How do you think it will actually work in India?
I think let's take one step back. I would say that Audi has been one of the key drivers in autonomous driving. If you look at the global perspective, level 2 is basically secured, and Audi is the one that will also achieve level 3 with the A8 coming up. Of course, looking at India from that perspective, it is a challenge, because on a lot of roads we still don't have any proper lanes. People are driving left and right. I think the future will still be autonomous, while it may take a little bit longer in India. I do believe that is something which will change the world, because a lot of science and a lot of research goes into it, even like the behavioral perspective from different countries. Let's take the example of people, people walking. How they walk in Tokyo is at a different pace than how they walk in Mumbai, or how they walk, for example, in San Francisco. Pretty interesting to look at all this research and analysis. I've done that with a couple of engineers. It's pretty exciting, because these are the things that they have to take into consideration. Designing, developing cars from an autonomous driving perspective. Yes, it will come, but it will come at a later stage, I'm sure. Of course, there's now resistance to it, or at the current stage, because we have a lot of drivers in the country. I think we should not be necessarily afraid of changes or of change. Everyone was afraid of automation in production areas, or with machines coming in, so people will get unemployed. There's a space and there's a place for everyone in the country, and I'm sure there will be also there's also new work being created and new employment being created. So we should be open to new technologies.
Audi India has, not many products in the entry-level range. So do we expect the hot hatch A1 and the Q2, the small SUV?
That's a very good question. I do agree that so far we have the entry level a little higher with the A3 and the Q3. That was an intentional decision, to be honest, because at that point in time we also believed that the market is not ready for it. To have a smaller car at a very high value is not necessarily the right step, and will not necessarily sell a lot of cars. But if you see how the luxury market and has developed, and especially also the aspiration towards luxury brands, I think it will be also only a question of time when we are going to launch these kind of cars in India. We already get a lot of feedback from customers, from potential customers. Hey, how about launching that car? And of course, that's an exciting phase for us. It's also good feedback for us. And of course, we've seen that trend. And I do think that India is ready for it, yes.
How do you think Indian sales in luxury cars compare with other markets? I mean, it's far behind China, but what about Brazil, Mexico, and other comparable markets?
The Indian luxury market is a little bit, probably a little bit limited in terms of growth. Limited in the sense of that new policies every few months coming into play, which limit the growth and the potential of the luxury segment. I do believe that the luxury market should be enabled to grow quicker at a larger pace. Why is that so? Because I think that luxury cars have to be made more accessible. Why do I say so? It's one of those things that I talked about. Customers are getting more and more aspirational. And that mainly happens because the mindset of customers has changed. While earlier it was buying a house and buying jewelry as part of owning luxury, it has changed to buying a luxury car. And now luxury cars, while they are made more accessible now in terms of lower EMIs and so on, we still have high taxes on these cars. What happens if we lower these taxes is that we will sell more cars. Of course, there will also be more tax revenue generated if you sell more cars. We will be in a position to bring in new products. We will be in a position to invest into the network, and ultimately that will also create more manpower in the country. I do think that that should be reconsidered. What I find a little unfortunate is that every time there's a discussion of generating more revenue or tax revenue, there's a discussion of potential hike of the luxury tax. Just look at the pure size of it. You know, we're talking about 38 to 42,000 cars a year, as opposed to the 30 lakhs plus cars that are sold in India. And you're talking about punishing that segment only, instead of making it more accessible. I do think there should be a win-win situation. Yeah? If you sell more cars, as I said, you will have also more tax revenue. So why don't you just try it for a period of 12 months, see what the impact is, and then also make a decision on a long-term basis. What we need is sustainability in terms of policies and planning.
Now talking about sales, how many approved plus outlets are there in India, and how is it doing?
Approved Plus is a very interesting business. Now Audi India is in the operations for 11 years, which means that within these 11 years we've also sold a lot of cars. That means a lot of used cars are on Indian roads, which is exciting. It's a good business. We have now 8 Approved Plus facilities. The trend is increasing. We have, of course, also facility partners, so that every Audi dealer is, of course, taking or accepting used cars as such, Approved Plus. But at the same time, we also have separate facilities that will surely also increase to a certain extent. Why? Because used cars are getting more and more, and that aspiration to own an Audi, to own the badge with the 4 rings, is increasing, and even if it's being part of the family as a used car owner.
Now we'll talk about your take on diesel and petrol engine mix, because of the fuel. The cost difference between the fuel is very less. Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, how are the sales between the petrol Audis and diesel Audis?
It's an interesting development. So in 2015 we had a share of about 90 to 10%, so 90% diesel, 10% petrol. Now that share has reduced to 70 to 30, and we expect petrol to increase. There are a couple of reasons for it. One is the fascination and the fun of driving a petrol. People enjoying it more and more. Of course, the other reason for it is that there were a couple of policies that stopped us from selling diesel in the NCR, for example, which also resulted in the fact that people are choosing and opting for petrol cars. And the other thing is also that if you look at it from a total cost of ownership perspective, getting a good sense of the overall cost perspective. If you look at the difference per liter, talking about 5 rupees. It's not a lot of difference on the one hand. On the other hand, also, if you don't drive a lot, a petrol may make sense for you. It's not necessarily a diesel. So that stereotypical thought of a diesel being more affordable than a petrol has basically gone away, and the customer is more aware of what a petrol actually means in terms of total cost of ownership. We expect the petrol to increase to a level of even 50% for us. We do believe in petrol, but equally we do also believe in the diesel. So both will be available in the meantime.
So there's a cost of ownership attached to all the luxury brands, car brands specifically. If you look at any luxury car brand, the perspective is it's expensive to own, it's expensive to maintain. So how is Audi India tackling this perspective?
So first of all, of course, I don't agree to it. For me, it's a stereotypical approach of people saying that owning a luxury car is too expensive. It's actually not. What we have done to tackle this is basically to educate customers on the various options that we have. So as part of the offer, as part of the new car purchase, customers can buy a customer service package. That's basically wear and tear maintenance package, which is pretty interesting. So up to 5 years, 1 lakh. So we offered various options, and we are the most competitive in the luxury segment, which is good for the customer. It's sort of a peace of mind package for the customer, because he exactly knows, okay, that's basically also the maintenance cost for me for the next years to come, just to make him feel good at ease. Because sometimes you have first time buyer that is entering into a luxury segment, or he's hesitating because he thinks, oh, I may afford the monthly installment, but I may not be in a position to afford the maintenance cost. And to educate that customer, to give him also that feeling of security, we basically talk to the customers and offer that package.
We are entering the festive period in India currently with Diwali coming up. So what are the festive offers from Audi India?
So we've launched a campaign which is called Together with Audi. Pretty exciting. Together with Audi, it actually means for us that you are part of the family. Together with Audi, it's our brand philosophy. Once you buy an Audi, you're part of the family. We don't let you go. You're part of the family. You stick to us. And we stick to you, we commit to you. And as part of that campaign, we have, of course, also launched a couple of offers. Part of it is the customer service package, and the other ones we are in particular offering, we are having some offers on the Qs, on the Q3, the Q5 and the Q7, but also on the A4 and the A6. So it's pretty much something that the customer can look forward to. I've just launched it 2 days back, so not bad.
Talking about Audi family, so what other customer connect initiatives do you have open?
So we have a couple of events. We do believe in below the line activities, saying that we want to connect with the customer. It's not only about like launching a nice campaign, having nice ads in the newspaper, but it's mainly about how do you interact with the customer on the ground. As part of this, we have a couple of events and institutions. One is called the Audi Weekender, where customers have the opportunity to drive the A range on the ground, also in a slalom circuit with professional instructors. The R range, so the sports cars on a track, show them also what the abilities of our sports cars are, and of course also the Q range in an off-road environment. Because the Qs can actually do much more than just drive on Indian roads. So we also give them a bit of a feel of what's happening off-road. Apart from this, we have a couple of other events like the Audi Sports Car Experience, where we go to race circuits such as the Brat International Circuit. We have the Q Drive that is happening only focusing on the Qs to show the abilities of the Q range, and so on. For us, it's very important to not only give them an opportunity to experience our cars, but to experience the brand Audi, be part of that family, and also network with the customers or with other customers and like-minded people.
Tell us about the network expansion plans for Audi.
85 plus customer touchpoints. That includes showrooms, workshops and approved plus facilities, used car facilities. We are looking primarily at an expansion of the workshops. Why? So we have a concept that is called workshop first approach, which means we are going into cities where a car park is already existing, where we sold a couple of cars already in that area, to make sure that we are in a position to service these customers and to service the cars in that areas. So we're opening up a couple of workshops more in those areas. That is our primary target. And once the car sales in that area increase, we're also looking at establishing showrooms.
Tell us about Audi Mobile Terminal. What is it and how is it taking off? How is the response?
Yeah. Response to Audi Mobile Terminal is excellent. It's basically a luxury showroom on wheels. Pretty interesting concept because you are in a position to go from city to city, mainly in cities where you are not present, to display the Audi range. So you have one car display, and of course the entire range of Audi goes along. And especially in the interior, you see a lot of digital elements. So we are seeing move towards digitalization, of course, also for us, for the brand Audi, especially in the retail environments. So everything is more and more digitalized. If it's a car configurator in the showroom that you have, or even online, and those elements you of course see also in the Audi Mobile Terminal. And mainly it's also to experience our cars, because the customers that are living in those cities where we are not present, they don't necessarily always have the opportunity to drive our cars. And that is a fantastic opportunity to see what the Audi cars can deliver.
And basically Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are the future?
Yeah, Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, we are looking into this with the mean of the Audi Mobile Terminal, while Tier 2, Tier 3 cities are still contributing only about 25% of our entire volume. We do believe it's very important to go into those cities because these are also the growth cities of the future.
What are your sales target for 2018 and going till 2020? So
sales target for this year, I do think that we will not close on the same level as last year. We will have a degrowth that is mainly on account of a few reasons. One is being the policies in place. First of all, the cess hike that came last year in September, so the after effect of this. Then also the union budget. One advantage that we had was a lower stock available in the dealerships. Unfortunately, that also meant for us that we had to increase prices earlier than other manufacturers. That of course impacted our sales as well, because the 3.5% price hike in a luxury segment is pretty high. And of course the other reason to it is also that availability of models is only coming in the next 12 to 24 months, so new products coming up. So that will lead to the fact that we will close lower than last year a little bit. That's not necessarily bad for us, because we could have increased if we wanted. But our philosophy is clearly on establishing sustainability and profitability for our dealer partners. We don't want to have growth at any extent. That means that even the 2020 figure, which I cannot disclose of course, is not looking at primarily volume growth, but it's primarily looking at profitability growth for us and our dealer partners. Why is that so? We do believe that we need to set the base right for us now in the next 12 to 24 months to achieve a growth in the future for the brand Audi. It does not help us if our dealer partners don't make profits and buy market share now, because that will not happen at a sustainable base. And we are, as I said, we are here now for 11 years in the country, which means we are committed to India as a country, and we want to stay here on a long term. So we need to get the things right also on a long-term basis.
So now on a lighter note, downsizing is a trend that is catching up with all manufacturers, right? Especially Audi. So now we have an A4 with a 1.4 liter engine. So bragging rights are gone, right? So now could you tell us about the nomenclature that comes with Audi? 35 TSI, TFSI and 40 TFSI, or maybe 30 TDI. So what does 30 TDI mean? Or TFSI mean?
Yeah, so basically it's a combination of the power, the acceleration and CCM that has come along. While the earlier nomenclature was only focusing on the engine size, It was changed from Audi from a global perspective. For a strange reason, we did this earlier in India while it was implemented globally later on. I think it's still good because it does not necessarily influence the customer in a negative way, but rather it's probably something which is a bit neutral. A 30 TFSI, for example, just to stay on this, on a Q3 is a 1.4 turbo engine. And again, that's a combination of all the parameters that are basically the decisive factors on how the drivability of a car will be. That's pretty much it. It's not rocket science. Yeah, well, it may sound funny or may also give laymen the impression, okay, that's a high engine. It actually reflects also the reality on the ground.
Okay, so now tell us about the Q8. Everybody's talking about it. When is India getting it?
Q8 is a fantastic car. It's a beautiful car, speaks the new design language of our chief designer Mark Lichte. He has done a great job with his team to design the car in a manner that shows how progressive Audi is. You see the beautiful wide wheel arches, you see a new, more design which is edgier than earlier. The single frame is of course like very dominant, which is very nice, and the car is fantastic to drive. I've driven it already on-road, off-road, both. Great car, it has all the technological features that a car actually needs. Of course, the question is when it will come to India. It's planned for next year, so we are definitely looking forward to this. I would say it's the sporty brother of the Q7.
My next question was going to be about is there any Halo product coming in next year? So I guess it's Q8.
Q8 is one of those. Let's put it this way. Of course, we do have some other things in the pocket, which I cannot disclose at the moment because my PR team will definitely kill me after this. But we need a couple of surprises, and that's basically what brand Audi stands for. You need surprises for the customers, for the media. I think we are looking into this. We have planned for something which is definitely going to be exciting for India.
Sportback designs, A7, A5. How is the response with this?
Great. So the A5 we launched last year in October, and we designed it in a way that the communication was also different under the hashtag A5 Brat Pack. We mainly did it because the message was to do something different than others do. We were the first one in the segment to launch such kind of a concept. It has had a great response for us so far. Well, of course, you're not looking into volume, but it's more of a design and a brand image builder. We were surprised the response was so positive, especially on the S5. The S5 being one of the sportier models, of course, with 354 horses. So pretty exciting for the customer. We're looking forward to bringing in more of those kind of concepts to India.
Are you more excited about getting the E-Tron to India or the Q8?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. I would say I'm equally excited to bring in both cars, but from a technological perspective, I would say it is of course more the E-Tron, because that's something which has never been there before with the brand Audi and with probably any other car manufacturer, because looking at like only battery electric vehicle that changes the entire car industry, that's simply electrifying in that sense even. So I'd probably take the E-Tron Onroad and the Q8 Offroad.
What is your favorite Audi car?
My favorite Audi, it's a mixed balance between the RS5 and the RS6 Performance. The RS6 Performance, for sure, if you want to go on a weekend trip with your family, put the suitcases in the trunk and just drive out from Mumbai to Lonavala and continue that road. It's a beautiful scenic drive. And at the same time sporty. I love sporty drives. If I look at track perspective, apart from the R8 V10, I just love the RS5. RS5 is a very good and balanced car on the track, and I associate a couple of events with this. So apart from the driving part of it, I associate also launching the car with our brand ambassador Virat Kohli. He was really fascinated by that car, and when we drove basically from the showroom and from the hotel in Bangalore to the showroom, he was driving that car and he was just so fascinated. He said, "Wow, that's just amazing. I didn't know that this car has these kind of abilities." And if you see how he reacts to the car, this is just pure passion of a car lover, and also shows how real he is when he's in our Audis, and that's something which is pretty exciting.
So thank you for talking to us, and have a very good 2019.
Thanks.